When did you realize your friends weren't actually your friends? When they only called you when they need something from you. I would never hear from anyone unless they needed something, usually when they wanted it for free. Not my story, but a mate's. Guy invites all his high school friends, has known them around 10 years, around to celebrate his new house and newborn daughter. All the lads he invites drop MDMA in his lounge room and spend the night tripping without him, not even caring that he had all this amazing stuff he wanted to celebrate. Guy walks up to the ladies, who are obviously unhappy with the situation, and tells them, "I've just realized these guys aren't my mates. They are just using this event to drop and have fun on their own." Hearing that story broke my ducking heart. When I realized I was practically harassing them to hang out with me, just gotta get some self-respect and learn to let it go. Edit. Thanks so much the awards everyone. I shall hang them on my wall. Not sure if anyone will read this, but it's really the first time I've opened up about this. My best friend that I had since high school pretty much stopped trying to hang out with me ever since I moved out of my parents' house. I come from a decent well-off family, but ever since I moved out, things changed between us. Before things went sound after 2006, we hung out a lot, but he was kind of a weird friend. It's the little things over the years is what I picked up on. But since he was my bestie, I would let it go. I remember back when LAN parties were all the rage. I invited him over, and he was making fun of people to me. I'll let him know that isn't cool, and he left a few minutes after that. I transferred to a different college that was in the same town as him, and I thought, alright, we can hang out even more. So, anytime I tried to hang out with him, there was always an excuse as to why he couldn't hang out despite him hanging out with other people. At the time, I was a huge pushover of a person. I was only at that college for 2007, and we only hung out once. After that, I didn't see him until 2010, when I had to go to his work to get his new phone number. He did happen to invite me to hang out on his birthday, and I thought, cool, maybe we will be friends again. Went over to his place. It was a birthday party, but I noticed he really didn't have much to do with me, and he didn't ask me to join in when he was doing group pictures. During the party, I noticed another friend I haven't seen since high school. I asked if we could hang out and talk about old times. He says that would be great. He says that the three of us, including my former best friend. But the day that I was supposed to hang out with them, no answer when I called and texted. That left a really bad taste in my mouth after being ghosted. Fast forward to 2012. My daughter was born. My former best friend was still the first person I called to come see her. He showed up, hung out for 15 minutes, and said he had to leave. After that, I couldn't get any type of time to hang out with him. But in 2019, I asked if we could hang out during Christmas Eve, since he would be in town when I'm visiting my family. He said he would. Once I spent some time with my parents, I'll let him know I couldn't slip away. He says his brother-in-law has his car and he didn't know when he would come over. I asked when he would like to hang out. No response. After being left on read for a week, I just deleted all my former friends from the group we hung out with. I also blocked him and his wife from viewing my Facebook. I'm still pretty broken up about it, since I don't have many people I associate with outside of my family. Edit. Thanks for the silver award. It does feel better talking about it, and I haven't even told my wife about it. When I realized that my two best friends just came over to mess with me and make fun of me together, that's tough. Trios rarely work. I speak from experience. 2 times I got into trios, the other 2 ended up a lot closer while I became the outsider. Kinda feels like you lost a race because you all started at the same point. Even worse when 2 of you started together. Then you bring in the third person and they grow closer and leave you as the outsider. Stinks, doesn't it? Me and 2 girls were walking down the street and they completely ignored me. So I was walking behind them. Then I decided to just turn around and walk back home. They didn't notice and they never asked where I went. That really hurt. Also at another point one of the girls came up to me and just flat out said to me, sometimes I don't understand why you have friends. Well, Recently I've started wondering about it too. One group of friends I had was a group of 7. During restrictions in London you were limited to groups of 6. Guess who was left out almost every time? Edit. Wow, I didn't expect all these responses. Thank you for all the support. Don't worry. I do have a few groups of friends and a wide support network, so this didn't affect me that badly. It more just made me take stock and think, oh, I'm definitely number 7 in this group, so I should take that into account when I decide who to spend my time with. I was like a decoration on their conversations with each other, and they only talked to me to tell me things like be quiet or can I borrow this PLZZ. When I was in deep depression and finally opened up to my friends, and they made fun of me saying I was only trying to get attention. Edit. I did not expect this to get so much attention. I thought it was simply gonna get buried and forgotten. But for those who asked, I'm much better now, and I haven't spoken to them in years. Also, thanks for the awards. When I broke up with a girl that I had dated for less than 5 months and they all abandoned me for her, and then I found out they all were taking a trip to Colorado together and nobody even bothered to tell me. I found that out on Facebook. I was in a group of friends at uni, and one of them was Swedish. This was remote friendship. We distanced. But I accidentally came across on Facebook that the Swedish guy came to visit the others. I'm unsure if I would have gone, but I would have liked to have been included. The silence confirmed that I was better off not in their lives. It's a horrible feeling when you're excluded from group activities like that. It's even worse when you've been actively trying for a while to see someone / a group of people, but they keep dodging you. When he ripped me and our other friend / flatmate off for $700, and when we confronted him about it, he took all his nice stuff and left us to get rid of his trash and never paid us our money back. So essentially we were down $700, meaning we had to come up with that money. We had to continue paying rent etc with one less income, and we had to pay to get rid of his crap. Fuck you, Vance. Was talking to her during CL button, she just says, why don't you have other friends? Question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. It was terrible, especially since this guy behind us just froze at her comment and stared at us to see what happens next. Edit. I honestly didn't think this would get this much attention and criticism, but I'll give you the context of this. Also, I'm sorry to anyone saying they had similar experiences. That feeling really sucks. Close bracket. I, female, was extremely close to her since elementary school, and this happened in middle school in the middle of class. We were just talking normally when she just blurts this out, which is why I mentioned the guy. I think he was talking to us when she said it, and he happened to be my crush's best friend. Exclamation mark. So it was even more embarrassing that he heard this. Also, I wasn't always bothering her with my problems. In fact, I had always felt left out because it seemed like I was more her friend than she was mine. I did have other friends, but like I said, me and her were close. Also, the relationship didn't end between us. It did end though when she moved a year later. But after that I figured out the type of person she was. Also, her question didn't sound like a friendly question, which is clearly why I'm still hurt by it after all these years. Oh my, I had this happen. I was friends with this girl so much so that I had even been to her house several times and we hung out together a lot. Then suddenly during gym, CL Butch loudly tells me to stop following her around while we were doing laps inside. It was also a few days after her birthday, which I had given her a gift for. I stopped talking to her immediately after that. I just don't understand people. Edit. Wow, I honestly didn't expect so many people to sympathize and reply. And I'm so sorry so many other people share this experience in one way or another. Also, thank you for the awards. When I had a large hole in my foot after stepping on an iron spike, they laughed as the ambulance guys closed the doors. One of the ambulance guys said, some friends you've got there. I realized he was right. In high school, my long-term bully in the year above me threw a rock the size of my fist at me, hitting me in the back. Of course, I hit the ground screaming in pain. Most of my friends, who were sitting nearby, began to roll around with laughter as, according to one of them, it looked like I had been shot. Apostrophe. You know things are serious when the most feared person in my year ran over and helped escort me to the medical room because he saw what happened and thought it was unacceptable. Apostrophe. When I came back the next day, after a quick visit to R&D and a police statement was given, I had to deal with one or two of them deliberately poking the huge bruise on my back and laughing about how funny it was when the rock hit me. I shrugged it off for years. But it was only until last year and I started therapy that I understood how much anger and disgust the whole thing made me feel. I had forgiven the person who threw the rock ages ago, but it's only recently that I've started to try and forgive the friends who laughed at me when I was injured. Being 15 sucked. Edit. Just to add, some of those friends did come over and try and help, but it was by the time the feared kid came over, out of a group of maybe 15 friends, only 2 to 3 showed any real concern and tried to help. The rest were laughing. One of the kids who came over to see if I was okay was called Jamie. Nice work, Jamie. I was in a band with my closest friends, and we used to travel a lot for gigs, etc. because it was just for fun, and we all had real jobs. Sometimes one of wouldn't be able to make it, and I noticed that whoever wasn't in the car would get ruthlessly slammed by my friends. After 3 or 4 times I worked out that if I wasn't in the car, they would probably say bad things about me. So one day I say I can't make it to the gig, and I send along a colleague from work to take my place. Next day he reported back to me that they spent the whole trip there and back hanging poop on me, and not in a fun way. They genuinely were not my friends. Never spoke to any of them again. After middle school, I realized that my friends weren't actually my friends, since they'd spent basically the entirety of it bullying me and making my life a living hell. I was so used to being abused and mistreated. I thought that was what friendship was. It's unfortunate that the leader of it all got to live a good life, and I'm just fortunate that my friends from high school, who also knew this dude, believed me when I told them what kind of a person he was to me. When they left me bleeding and concussed on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere in Cuba to find my way back to the resort completely disoriented, I came across an old mutual friend back in late 2016. We talked and caught up with our lives from a 10-year gap since we've seen each other last. Following year 17 through 18 he started turning things around and becoming a fake friend. He started asking for money at least once a month at first, then progressed to every other week, varying from $20, then to $100, then $500. Excuses were, I need it for my cell phone bill, or I need it for a Mother's Day gift, followed by I need it for rent. Meanwhile this guy was working at McDonald's full time at $16 an hour and living with his grandparents rent free. I decided to cut ties with this person. When someone else told me they said they're only your friend because they feel sorry for you and tried prying as to why, me and this girl were both in school counseling for absent fathers. So hearing this after she left the school was kinda devastating. Not to mention, another reason I won't trust anyone. I'd never had friends. And this was 4th grade. I just wish I knew why I was so pitiful. So sad. They felt they had to pretend to be my friend. When my best friend had her BF cheat on her, and the group of people who witnessed it didn't say anything for a whole year, it made me question their morals. Like, if I was in my bestest position, would they not say anything for a whole year? Not to mention, they would talk massive amount of crap on us when we weren't around. So yay, my best friend at the time witnessed my ex cheating on me. He agonized over whether to tell me, ultimately deciding not to because he knew that, as in love with her as I was, I would never believe him, and then I would end our friendship. He chose to remain silent so that he could support me when I found out on my own. He confessed once she and I had broken up, fully expecting me to punch him in the face. Instead, I hugged him and thanked him. Crazy, but when a very toxic ex-GF made note that they weren't my friends, I didn't listen. After recovering from that horrible breakup, I met / started dating / quarantining with a really nice lady. Friends I fed, partied with and traveled with were jealous and would start picking me apart in front of said lady. End of the story is everyone is gone now. Should listen to toxic GF. 1/10 would not repeat. When I moved, no one stayed in touch. Even with me trying. When I started working from home, no one has checked in on me. Starting to think I'm just unlikable tbh. It's okay. Lots of people are unlikable. I've never had a real friend. My so tolerates me, comfortable for that person. And I do my best to stay out of their way. Even my mother said she loves me, but never liked me. I keep a dog. She loves me no matter what. When I was in a fragile mental state, and they thought it was funny to make me break down, and they have the nerve to leech on me a few hours before a test, I ended up leaving them to fail instead of helping. When they chose to believe a rumor over me, well, so and so said this about you. That was when I chose my own path, and those that wanted to keep me as a friend decided to do so. Had major brain surgery in 2011 to remove a tumor. Spent 7 days in ICU. Out of the 10 or so good friends I had at the time, only one bothered to visit me. Turns out that the one I thought was like a brother told everyone else that I couldn't have visitors. The one friend that did come is the only one I kept contact with after recovering. Unfortunately, he passed away 2 years back. Miss him dearly. It was a slow burn. She was my best friend for years. In school we were inseparable. But she would make those snide comments, and over time it got to me. She kept putting me down and I understood. We were both getting bullied, and she just needed someone that was below her. I thought if it would make her happy, I was okay with it. I could take it. Then we finished school, and she met new people, and she seemed happy without me, and I was relieved. I could finally withdraw from her. Edit. To those worrying. I'm slowly learning to distance myself from friends who do not bring anything good into my life. I still try to be open and understanding to everyone, but I won't put up with being bullied. My therapist once said something that stuck to me. You can't keep helping people if they drag you down. Because if you both end up in that hole, nobody is helped. Apostrophe. Yeah. Seeing someone you thought was your friend hanging out with other people, and seeing them so much happier with them than they ever were with you, it cuts deep. When I got rid of Facebook, on the plus side, it did show me who the real friends were and who I was willing to keep up a meaningful relationship with. After deleting all my social media, the number of people who celebrated my birthday decreased drastically. Last year it was around 50 people ming and saying happy day. This year it was just 5. When she told me she wanted her bridesmaids not to look too pretty, and why don't I research how to be a pregnant bridesmaid and deal with it, she later skipped my baby shower and didn't send a gift. I opted out of being a bridesmaid in her wedding and opted out of her life right after the wedding. 10 years of friendship over in a matter of months. It was wild. I got to the point where I noticed me and my best friend would only talk when I went out of my way to initiate conversations. I started feeling like I was bothering her, so I stopped texting her first to see how long it would take her to notice. It's been almost 6 years and she still hasn't noticed. When your best friend basically copies your speech/debate points in a national level event, leaving you with nothing to speak and absolutely humiliated in front of hundreds of people just so he could get to the next round. He won acclamation for the same. When he literally ghosted me, was supposed to be coming round to my place for video games and shooting the breeze. 6:30 he texts me saying that he'll be there about 7:15. He lives one street over, but at 7:30, he didn't show up. Texted him a few times. Called him. Nothing. Literally nothing again. Ever. 8 months later I ran into him in the street. He goes, oh yeah. One of the guys showed up at my door and asked if I wanted to go clubbing and I did. Now, if he'd text me saying that he'd got an offer to go out, I wouldn't have cared. It was a we've got nothing on type night and I don't drink and hate clubs. So I wouldn't have been asking to join. That was also when I realized that I was always the one going, do you want to ? He never suggested anything that I was invited to, but no. He just ghosted me entirely for 8 months rather than explain himself. Haven't seen or spoken to him in about 15 years at this point. Thankfully I met some much better people later and now I'm asked if I want to do things, rather than having to be the pure driving force on any meeting. So one of my friends, E, talked to my girlfriend about wanting to meet her up alone and watch a movie or go to the beach together without me. My girlfriend told me, but I was too scared to tell my other friends, fearing they would hang out with me anymore. Later another one of my friends, got himself a girlfriend, and after a while noticed he doing similar things to his new girlfriend. He, however, told me and the fourth friend S about it, and we broke contact with E. I also told them about what he had done to me, and that I didn't tell them because I feared they would stop hanging out with me. After a few months later, O and his girlfriend broke up, and about 2 weeks afterward both O and S were talking to E as if nothing had happened, and I just stopped hanging out with all three of them. Pros: I grew as a person and I cut off fake friends. Cons: that was 2 years ago, and I haven't had any friends since. This happens to me way too often. I find the easiest way is to stop being the first to text. If they really care about you as a friend, they should at some point text and say all good. Apostrophe. My hardest ever realization was my research buddy. We would do so much together. I picked her up in the mornings on the way to the lab. We would go with each other to do field work, go to lunch or dinner together all the time. She came to my wedding. My husband and I helped her escape an abusive relationship. Then after she left that guy and suddenly had this newfound freedom, she felt that as a married woman, I would be a wet blanket on fun. So she cut me out of her life. Encouraged my other university friends to do the same. I ended up leaving my PhD, and this was a small reason behind it. I actually went and fetched my stuff in the middle of the night so that I wouldn't have to see anyone in the lab. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.